Well, it was 40 years ago today, as we mentioned, the man first landed on the moon. How about private sector efforts to get people into space? Jennifer Joan Lee has more on that part of the story.
It's one small step for man.
It was meant to be a giant leap for mankind, but 40 years after the Apollo landing, man is no closer to reaching the stars. The U.S. is threatening to scale back its $35 billion space program, while NASA is retiring its shuttle next year, with no replacement planned until 2015. Until then, U.S. astronauts will have to use Russia's spacecraft at a reported cost of $50 million a seat.
So what we're really talking about is sending billions of dollars to the Russians between 2010 and 2016. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, and frankly, I think a little embarrassing for the United States to be hitching rides from the Russians.
Elon Musk is the founder of SpaceX, a company that develops and builds launch vehicles. He says the private sector offers governments the best ticket to space because their flights would be cheaper, more innovative, and more reliable.
Compare things that were done by government enterprises versus private in other modes of transport, this becomes fairly obvious. Would you prefer to fly, Aeroflot, or would you prefer to fly United Airlines?
Governments are starting to see his logic. NASA recently awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to provide a vehicle that can reach the International Space Station. The craft is expected to make its first flight in 2010.
What they'd like to do in an ideal world is perhaps spend more of their money on actual activities in space rather than spending money on getting into space. So you might imagine a situation in the future where you have privately owned space lines carrying people and payloads from the Earth's surface into low Earth orbit.
Virgin Galactic has started to make that a reality. Founded by airline tycoon Richard Branson, the company is constructing the world's first commercial space line. By charging space tourists $200,000 a flight, it aims to generate enough revenue to send other technologies into space.
Only by getting the real regularity of flying, getting the economies of scale and the costs down, can we make the space science and the satellite launching cheap. We want to be able to launch 200-kilogram low Earth orbit satellites for less than $2 million a pop, and that would cause an industrial revolution in space.
Whitehorn says Virgin Galactic and other private companies can then take over NASA's more mundane tasks, leaving the space agency free to fly back to the moon or explore new frontiers. Jennifer Joan Lee, Bloomberg News.